Hi, I'm Phil Rude. I'm an illustrator, comic book artist, and sometimes writer. Today, I'm inking a sketch I made of musician Grace Bowers. I wanted to turn it into more of a finished drawing of her. I'm using a flex nib from a set of nibs my wonderful daughter-in-law gifted me recently. And I do a little bit with a Rembrandt brush just for, a couple spot blacks. The ink, as per usual, Dr. P.H. Martin's Dark Star matte black ink, and the paper is Canson Smooth Bristol. Still waiting on those sponsorships, guys. Reach out to me, philrudeart@gmail.com. I'd be happy to sponsor these wonderful products that I use all the time anyway. Before I get into talking about Grace Bowers, I want to drop a quick update about the events I worked a couple weeks back. First of all, the Meet Your Maker market that was held on Valentine's Day was a little bit insane, but not necessarily in a bad way. After weeks of calm, dry winter weather that we're used to here in Southwest Florida, that day became the day that decided to be stormy as hell. We got rain clouds rolling in about an hour beforehand. Winds really started picking up. And, it fast-tracked a couple things for me. I had planned to buy a tent for some events down the road because I knew I would need it for the summertime. But I went ahead and did that now. I did it on the way to the event. I stopped to buy a tent that I struggled to put up in high winds that came out of nowhere. But I eventually managed. And then I had a little shelter. I felt a little better about having my artwork out there because I had some shelter. But I did have to limit how much I put on the table so that the wind wouldn't take it all away. It was a tough event, but a really fun one at the same time. The event we were attached to was kind of a goth Valentine's Day party. So a lot of the people wandering through were in some really wild, amazing costumes. I met a ton of cool people who were running booths and a ton of cool people who were shopping booths. It was really, really cool just to kind of hang. My sales weren't all that I'd hoped they'd be, but I did sell a few books and a couple small pieces of original art. I also brought out a book I made 10 years ago. It's called Sally. It's a small book. I sold it online for a short time when I first made it, and a few weeks ago I decided to print up a few copies just to take it to shows. If nothing else, I thought it would be cool just to have another book on the table. And surprisingly, it sold fairly well. People were curious about it. I think they found it kind of cute or charming. And it was nice to see people connect to something I had printed kind of on a lark. It was a nice surprise. The following day, I was at Lost World Books, and through no fault of anyone's, the day was a tad disappointing. There was a parade downtown that we would have thought would bring a lot of foot traffic, because a lot of people were having to park, and there's a lot of people walking through the neighborhood. But it just didn't happen. It was just a slow Saturday overall. But again, it was a good hang. I did have some customers and made some connections. I had a few sales. I hung out with the owners, Alistair and Marigreets, and we made the best of a slow day. I had some coffee. I shopped some books. Marigreets at one point read the Lorax to us, which was cool. I had never read that book before, the Dr. Seuss book. As always, it's just a great hang every time I'm there. But just kind of a slow sales day for everybody, which it made it kind of, yeah, I'm not going to lie, that makes it a little tough. You want to do well, you want the people around you to do well, you want the store to do well, and I think everybody had a good time, just commerce-wise, it was not everything we had hoped for. But it was fun, and I do look forward to being able to table there again in the not distant future. Hopefully. I really have a great time there. And finally, I want to just address the comic I made in my last video, Antigonish, because I have not gotten any pushback, I've not gotten any feedback on it. I just realized, and I felt after I'd posted it, how dark it made my sobriety seem in the context of everything I was talking about. And I want to state for the record that is not the case. I think the video just sort of slanted that way without me really intending it to. My sobriety is wonderful, and it is a constant positive in my life. I'm very conscious of the clarity and the good life it has allowed me to have. I'm extremely grateful for that. I'm not haunted by an urge to drink or constantly badgered by bad memories in any kind of way that hangs over me in any constant beat down kind of way. The poem is just meant to highlight a very specific and honestly far less frequent than it used to be occasion where I have occasion to remember the person I used to be, and I'm bothered by it because I'm not a fan of that guy. It's just sort of a side effect of improving my life. It's something I'm working on, and I think making that comic was part of that process. And I just don't want any confusion about it because my sobriety and sobriety in general is not something I think of in any kind of dark way. So in retrospect, maybe it wasn't the best choice for a celebratory post, but, so it goes. Okay, now we come to the subject of my drawing today. And this is Grace Bowers of Grace Bowers and the Hodge Podge. And I'm doing this as kind of a holdover from the picture show, which, if you don't know, is the podcast currently on hiatus. Insert pod fade comments as you wish. It's a podcast I do with my son, Austin. And, it's a movie podcast. We just talk about movies and whatnot. But we like to end the episode shouting out something or someone whose work we're enjoying and urge people to check it out. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. If you are not familiar with Ms. Bowers, she's a guitar phenom I discovered a year or two ago. And by discovered, I don't mean that I'm responsible for her career, fame, or success. I just meant that I happened to stumble across a video of her playing on social media and thought she was cool and very talented and started following her because I thought she was just that. I thought she was cool. Pardon my cat. Django is very whiny right now. I apologize if you can hear him. She is a 17 or 18-year-old. I think she had some reference about being in her senior year in high school. And while that's not extremely rare in guitar circles, in like the past 20 years have shown us people like Kenny Wayne Shepherd or Johnny Lang or Joe Bonamassa, I guess, who became very famous at a young age. It's also not super rare to be seeing a guitar player who became known through social media and to kind of build a career, a bigger career off of that. But I think Grace Bowers is set apart from them in a really unique way. And no, don't think that it's just because she's a girl. Ooh, girl guitar player, how cool. No, that's not what I'm talking about. a ton of social media guitar players of all genders, of all backgrounds, have become really famous because they play, quote, just like Jimmy, or just like Clapton, or just like Stevie Ray Vaughan. There are even players who became famous without social media, who get that way because of comparisons and the way they ape these guitar giants. It's kind of become the standard way that guitar players show how good they are, or that guitar fans, which please don't get me started on internet guitar fans. But it becomes like this measuring stick. Obviously, I'm good. I play exactly like Eric Clapton. Oh my God, this guy is so good. He plays just like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And it really has created this landscape of guitar players who I can look at and really admire their chops and really admire their ability to play and their tone. But generally, I really have no interest in buying their albums or diving deeper into what they do or seeing them live. And it's not because I'm opposed to what they do. It's that what they do, I have seen before and seen so much of it. And after a while, it just feels like a copy of a copy of a copy. To swing it over to my side of the fence, it's like in the comic world. When there are writers and artists that you really admire, they're technically great at what they do. And they do it really well. But when you see that they're doing superhero books, I don't have anything against superhero books. I just don't know how many times I need to see that drum get beaten. We've had superheroes for, it's less than 100 years, but it's almost 100 years. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't need to see another superhero. I don't need to see another version of Superman, of Batman, of Spider-Man. I don't need to see a kind of gritty, dark take on how superheroes aren't really heroic. I don't need to see The Boys. All of it is derivative of something that's been going on for a long time. And, you know, I understand it's for somebody. I'm not knocking what you do. I'm just saying at a certain point, I can admire your craft, but not really be interested in the story you're telling. I'm not trying to be negative or come down on a genre or anything. It's just oversaturation is the point I'm trying to get to. And I think that happens a lot when you get into the guitar world, because we've held up these people like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eric Clapton for so long that becomes what everybody sort of apes. And in watching Grace Bowers' videos and clips and watching her sit in with different bands and play on late night shows with their house bands, I saw that she is doing something really different than so many of the whiz kid guitar heroes and Instagram guitar superstars of the past several years. She's playing blues licks, sure, but she also is infusing them with jazz phrasing, with complex chord progressions, with funk. She's blending all of that into something wholly unique, but it's still soaked with influence from the past. It struck me as the best way to bring your influences forward is to sort of mix them in a way that is unique to you and put your own fingerprints on it. And I noticed she was doing this, and I really thought it was really cool to go on a late night talk show and sit in with a house band and play jazz. Just start doing like jazz phrasing, a free-form jazz phrasing over like the R&B groove that the house band is laying down. I thought it was cool. So I bought her album. I bought her album, Wine on Venus. This is the album from Grace Bowers and the Hodge Podge. And it fucking slaps. The thing that strikes me so much in listening to it is that she's part of a band. She's heavily featured, but she really plays with the band. She's not just shredding. She's not showing off. The band doesn't simply exist to prop her up. It's a killer band, and she's part of it. They've got great horns. There's an amazing lead vocalist. There is a kick-ass rhythm section, and Grace Bowers fits right into it. She doesn't overplay. She isn't showing off. She's playing her parts, and everyone else in the band is playing theirs. It's collaborative, and it's wonderful. She plays with a maturity beyond her years. I have mad respect for the young career she's put together, and I look forward to seeing what else she explores in moving forward. And that's why I made this drawing of her. That, and I thought her hair would be fun to draw. As a baldish man, balding, I don't have as much hair as I used to. So it's hard for me not to admire that magnificent mane of hers. It's I've got some hair envy going on here, but she has a great head of hair. She does. She has a great look on top of being a great musician. Very rock and roll. That's going to do it for me this time. Please subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video. Go to philrudeart.com and see what I've got going on over there. And check out the links below. I will have links to a ton of the people that I tabled with at the Meet Your Maker market. And, of course, I will have a link to Grace Bowers and the Hodge Podge. Please check out their album. She's a great follow on Instagram. Just check out what she's doing and see if you agree with me. Yeah, that's going to do it. Take care of yourselves until we meet again. I said that backwards, didn't I? Until we meet again, take care of yourself. I don't really have a catchphrase. I can't do them. But okay, bye.